And we're back. The purpose of this lesson is for you to be able to convert a rational number to a decimal using long division, and to be able to identify terminating and repeating decimals as rational numbers. And we talked about that in the last video, how a terminating decimal, a decimal that ends, and a repeating decimal, a decimal that has a repeating pattern, are both rational numbers. The first part of this video, we're going to learn how to convert a fraction to a decimal. And there's actually two methods in doing this. And the first method is to ask yourself if you're going to be able to make the denominator into a place value. And remember, our place values are tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, and so on. So this first example, we have the fraction 3/4. So you need to ask yourself, can I multiply 4 by any number to get a place value? And I can multiply 4 by 25 to get 100. And remember, 100ths is a place value. So if I have to multiply 4 by 25 to get 100, I need to do the exact same thing to the numerator. So that's why I multiplied 3 by 25, which is 75. So 3/4 is the same or equivalent to the fraction 75/100ths. And to write that as a decimal, we would write 75, and this 5 is in the 100th place value. The next example is 3/5. So ask yourself, can I multiply 5 by anything to get a place value? The first place value is tenths. So yes, 5 times 2 is 10. And remember, you do the exact same thing to the numerator. So we're going to multiply 3 by 2 as well, which is 6. So 3/5 and 6/10 are equivalent fractions. And right here, there is 6/10 as a decimal. That 6 is in the 10th place value. Go ahead and pause the video and try the next two examples on your own. Okay, let's see how you did. So for the first problem, I would have asked myself, can I multiply 5 by anything to get a place value? And the first place value is tenths. So yes, 5 times 2 is 10. I need to do the exact same thing to the numerator so that we have equivalent fractions. And 4 times 2 is 8. So 8/10 as a decimal would be written like that. We'd put the 8 in the 10th place. For this example, you need to pay attention to the whole number because we actually have a whole number of 4 here. So we know that 4 will be our whole number. And then ask ourselves, the first place value is tenths. Well, 50 is bigger than 10, so I cannot get tenths. But the next place value is hundredths, and I can multiply 50 by 2 to get the hundredths place value. And I need to multiply the numerator by the exact same number so that I have equivalent fractions. 19 times 2 is 38. So right now, this is the mixed number 4 and 38/100ths. So as a decimal, I'd put my 4 as my whole number, and 38, the 8 is in that 100th place value. So how did you do? Hopefully you did well on that. If you got them wrong or you still don't understand, please make sure you come with those questions tomorrow. The second method to change a fraction to a decimal is to use long division. You might not always be able to think of a number to multiply the denominator by to get a place value. Now 8, you actually can use method 1 for this one because 3/8, I can multiply 8 by 125 to get 1,000, and 1,000 is a place value. And remember, whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do the exact same thing to the numerator. So 3 times 125 is 375. So as a decimal, we would write it as 375 thousandths because that 5 is in the thousandth place value. Some of you might not be able to think of this number to multiply by though. So if you cannot do that, you're going to use long division to change it into a decimal. So I put the 3 divided by 8, and here's all the work of long division to show how to change that to a decimal. This next example is a little bit different because we have a 2 right here. We're not going to worry about that till the end. So we're going to work with the fraction 1/6, then we need to change that to a decimal. I cannot think of a number to multiply 6 by to get a place value, 10, 100, 1000. So instead I'm going to use long division to change 1/6 to a decimal. And remember that fraction bar means to divide. So that means to do 1 divided by 6. 6 does not go into 1, so I'm going to put a 0 here. And remember from 6th grade, we learned to add a decimal and a place value if we don't have any other numbers left. 6 goes into 10 once. 6 times 1 is 6. And then we're going to subtract to see what we have left over. 10 minus 6 is 4. 6 does not go into 4, so I actually have to add another place value and bring that down. 6 goes into 40 6 times, which is 36. I have 4 left over again. 6 does not go into 4, so I have to add a place value. 6 goes into 40 6 times, which is 36. And this is just going to keep on going and going and going. That's when we have a repeating decimal. Now don't forget at the beginning we had this 2 for our whole number, so we're going to put that before our decimal. And then the 1, 6, it's just the 6 that repeats. So I'm going to put the repeating bar over the 6. So 2 and 1/6 as a decimal is 2.16 repeating. Go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. All right, so you should have had 0.27 repeating. Now, in the example before, we just had the repeating bar over the 6 over here. Now this one, I put the repeating bar over the 2 and the 7 because it's the 2 and the 7 that continues to repeat. So check over your work and see how you did. In this last section of our notes, I'm going to show you how to change a decimal to a fraction. Remember, one of our I can statements are that I can identify terminating and repeating decimals as rational numbers. So a rational number is a number that can be written as a fraction. We're going to be changing these terminating and repeating decimals into fractions. The first example I put in your notes for you is changing this decimal to a fraction. Now, if you do not know your place values, you might want to study this visual over here because it's a reminder of all the place values, and you should know those from elementary school. So I'm going to look at the last digit, which is the 5, and it's in the 100th place value. So I started off by writing 45 hundredths. And this fraction is not in simplest form yet. So I'm going to divide 45 and 100 both by 5. And then here I get the fraction in simplest form, which is 9/20. Go ahead and pause the video and try the next two examples on your own. Let's see how you did. This 4 is in the 10ths place value, so I'm going to write that as 4/10. Now I can divide 4 and 10 both by 2, so it's not in simplest form yet. And once I do that, I'm going to get 2/5. So the decimal 0.4 as a fraction in simplest form would be 2/5. And this shows that it's rational because it's a quotient of two integers. And then the last one, you should have had 5 as your whole number. The last digit, this 5, is in the 1000th place value. So we're going to write that 125 over 1,000 because you'd read that as 5 and 125 thousandths. And I can actually simplify this by dividing by 125. So then I get 5 and 1/8 because 125 divided by 125 is 1. 1,000 divided by 125 is 8. You might have thought of another number to divide by. It might have taken you a few more steps to get to that simplest form. Because there's no right way to get to that answer as long as we all get to the simplest form. And then right now it's actually a mixed number. To show it as a rational number, I need to change it to a quotient of just 2 integers. So remember to do that. I'm going to do 8 times 5, which is 40, plus 1 is 41. So that would be 41/8. So there it's written as a rational number. That concludes the notes for today. Hopefully you thought that was easy. If not, please come to class tomorrow with some questions, and I will definitely help you out with that. And we will see you in class tomorrow. Adios.